Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Albert Wille, and this is a company called Mind Prosperity. It's about the mind and the mindset and the thinking going forward. We speak about emotional intelligence, which we believe will help with your mental wealth. So thank you so much for watching. I just want to say I do individual sessions, and I do sessions on emotional intelligence in the workplace. I have 4 different areas of sessions that I'm doing. So if you want to know more about emotional intelligence in the workplace, or if you want individual sessions, please email me. My email address will be on the screen. So I'm speaking out of this booklet, Emotional Intelligence in the Workplace, that I'm doing. Like I said, I have 4 different areas that I'm doing in the workplace. It can be done over social media platforms. So wherever you are in the world, you can contact me about that. So today I'm going to speak about emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence and why emotional intelligence is important? Now, Aristotle said the following. He said, anyone can be angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. So emotions, anger, things like that is a part of life. But if we don't manage it well, and if we don't know how to deal with it well, we're going to struggle in many areas of our lives. We're going to struggle in our family lives. We're going to struggle in our relational lives, in our friendships. We're going to struggle in the workplace, in companies, if we don't know how to master our emotions, to control our anger. Now, what is emotional intelligence? Carl Rogers wrote, and he said the following. He said, the human person is an active, self-regulating being who has an inherent tendency to enhance themselves and to be able to fulfill their potential. So what Carl Rogers is saying here is he's saying, as human beings, we can grow, we can develop, we can better ourselves. You will see I have another video, if you haven't seen it yet, called the importance of goal setting in emotional intelligence. Why is it important to set goals when it comes to emotional intelligence? And this is what Carl Rogers is saying. Carl Rogers is saying, as human beings, we can grow, we can develop, and we can enhance. So, according to Martins, Romalo, and Morin, emotional intelligence is being able to recognize what we and other people feel and finding ways to deal with those emotions. That is what psychologists call emotional intelligence. And why is this so important in all areas of relationships? Because if I know how to deal with my emotions, if I have good self-awareness, if I have good self-control, and I know how to deal with my emotions, and I'm able to recognize the emotions in others, it's then that I have good emotional intelligence. It's then that I can relate to other people, and it's then that I can actually get to that place where I can have good influence in the lives of others. And in all areas of life, this is so important, is to have good influence in the lives of others. I remember there's one company actually that sells food that I went to this place a lot because I love their food, I love their product, but because of the service and because of the way the people treated me, I came to a place where I didn't go anymore. And although I still love the product, I don't like the atmosphere, I don't like the way I'm being treated. And I actually stopped going to that place. I started to go to another place. Why? Because although the product is good, the emotional intelligence is bad. And because the emotional intelligence is bad, the atmosphere is bad. So wherever we are, when we have a good emotional intelligence, we create a good atmosphere. And wherever we create a good atmosphere, we start to draw people. Now, Daniel Goleman wrote about emotional intelligence, and he wrote about the 2 minds. The first one he wrote about is the limbic system, or the emotional mind, the feeling mind, and he calls it sometimes the illogical mind. It's when we feel angry, when we feel in love, when we are dreading something, it's the emotional brain or the limbic system that is triggered. And it's formed by 2 powerful tools called learning and memory. And that's where you get the amygdala in the brain and the hippocampus, the one that regulates the emotions and the one that has to do with learning and memory. Meaning sometimes we will go through something, and because something similar happened in the past, but what happened in the past was bad, this triggers something. And when it triggers something, we tend to react overly emotional. That's why it's so important to make sure we deal with and we work through past events that might have hurt us. Because as soon as we get into a similar situation, the emotional brain or the limbic system is triggered, and we will act in an emotional, unhealthy way. The second one he spoke about is the neocortex, and the neocortex is your rational mind or logical mind. And this one has to do with perception, reasoning, conscious thought, language, creativity, and the sense of self. So the neocortex is your thinking or your logical brain, or your limbic system is your emotional brain. So what's the importance in emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is when you can balance these 2 as far as you can. And although it won't always be possible, some situations will require us to be more emotional, some situations will require us to be more logical. But what I mean by finding a balance between the 2 is we want to deal with our emotions in a logical way. When we don't focus on the neocortex or the logical mind, that means we we will react overly emotional, and we won't manage our emotions in a logical way. We are overly emotional, and that's not emotional intelligence. When we hide the limbic system, or if we don't focus on what the limbic system tells us, if we only rational or if we only logical, that means we kind of hide our emotions, we bury our emotions away, and that's also not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is finding the balance between the two, when we can say, I want to manage my emotions in a logical way, or the place where we can bring the limbic system and the neocortex together. So Albert Ellis said, we teach people that they upset themselves. We can't change the past, but we can change how people are thinking, feeling and behaving today. So what Albert Ellis is basically saying is, if we want a good emotional intelligence, we have to take responsibility. People upset themselves. Yes, life and other people can place you into situations where you can get upset. But if you keep on blaming it on other people, if you keep on blaming it on the environment, you don't take responsibility. And if you don't take responsibility, you cannot deal with your emotions. And if you don't learn how to deal with your emotions in a logical way, like I said, the balance between the limbic system, the emotional brain, and the thinking, the rational brain, if you don't get a balance between that two as far as you can, you're going to struggle to be an emotionally intelligent person, if I can say it like that. So I want to give you guys 5 things on how do I develop emotional intelligence. And I think these things are going to help you a lot. So number 1, how do I respond? Ask yourself the question, when you are emotional, how do you respond? If you are tending to overly respond on your emotions, that means your limbic system is more at work. That's something you have to work on. That's when you have to say, listen, I'm overly responding on my emotions. My emotions get triggered too much and I have to deal with it. Or you can say, but I don't respond at all. I bury my emotions. I don't feel my emotions and I just, think logically about things. That's also not emotional intelligence. So what I want to do in my response is I want to feel my emotions. I want to admit that it's there, but I want to respond in a logical way. So number 2, you have to ask yourself the question, why do I respond like this? If you tend to be overly emotional, you have to ask yourself the question, why? Because if you don't know where it comes from, you will not know what to deal with. So, or if you tend not to be emotional about anything whatsoever, if you bury your emotions, that means you're kind of like afraid to feel them. And you have to ask yourself the question, but if I get emotional, why am I afraid to feel this emotion? Number 3, don't see the response as normal. So if you are overly emotional and if you think that's normal, that means you're not going to deal with it. If you bury your emotions, if you hide your emotions away and you don't deal with them and you see that as normal, that means you're always going to have things piled up. And if things are not dealt with, you're never going to learn how to get to that place where you have a good emotional intelligence. So don't always see your response as normal. And this brings me to number 4. Number 4 is very important. Speak to someone. Don't keep it hidden. And you can speak to a psychologist, counselor, somebody that you see in a leadership position that is good with their emotional intelligence. You have to speak to somebody because other people can help you make sense out of something. Other people can help you to develop. Other people can help you maybe to deal with the past, and other people can help you to put things into perspective. So that is why it's very important to deal with things and not to hide it away. And then number 5, approach your emotions. Don't keep it hidden. If you tend to keep it hidden, approach it. And if you are overly triggered, like I said, also get to a place where you approach it, where you can deal with it, where you can make sense out of it, and then ask yourself the question, but what is the appropriate way to deal with my emotions? And that's why it's also important to have good goal setting in emotional intelligence. So if you haven't seen that video, please go check it out. Yes, thank you guys so much for watching. There are many more videos coming from Mind Prosperity. We love you guys and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.